Finding the right real estate professional can be challenging. I'm broker Melissa Wilson. I'm knowledgeable in all aspects of the real estate process. So whether you're looking to buy new or an existing home or have a commercial need, I'm here to help.
Make sure you pick up my 2 books that's in Amazon right now. The first one is Passive-Aggressive Racism and the System of White Supremacy. And I talk about in that particular book how the system of white supremacy really runs on our daily lives here in America. In our latest book, 7 Steps to Decolonize the Mind, we go through those steps to try to deprogram you from the system of white supremacy. Make sure you can pick up those books on Amazon.com.
Introducing the African Diaspora News Channel app, your gateway to stories that's overlooked by the corporate mainstream media.
At African Diaspora News Channel, we cover stories that don't receive mainstream attention, and we serve as the voice to the global Black community. We are committed to informing and educating through the power of media, connecting the African diaspora one story at a time.
With our platform, we're helping to end injustice by exposing it.
Join us in standing for excellence in journalism and serving our community. Download the African Diaspora News app today.
Peace, family. Thank you so much for tuning in to African Diaspora News Channel. My name is Vicki Dillard. I'm one of the contributors here, and I'm so pleased that you are with us today, family. I have a little bit of a ritual that as you come in, be sure to give us a big thumbs up and share the broadcast. Would you do that? We certainly appreciate that. Family, let me tell you something. We are really getting our weight up in this U.S. government. When I say we, I'm talking about you and I, those that they mocked, those that they laughed, those that they consider to be the least of these. Yes, we who used what we had in our hands in order to reach you, in order to tell the stories so that we can control the narrative. And not only that, by extension, control what's actually happening here in the United States. And by extension, some things that are happening around the world. And for that, we say thank you so very much. Now, let me tell you all something. They are still freaking out because we are learning how power works. And one of the major ways power works is the narrative, what's being seeded through the media. And that's exactly the work that we do here, family. And that's the reason why it's so important that when you support us, when you share, when you like, when you download, for example, the app from here, African Diaspora News Channel, when you engage, family, you are actually strengthening our Black collective voice. That's important, especially in light of what just took place during this past election. I have to remind you that they were mocking us, taking us for granted, and did not believe that our protest and our engagement in the political process prior to this past presidential election this past November 5th, they mocked us, they laughed at us, and they felt that they were going to be able to get away with, once again, ignoring their most faithful and loyal voting bloc. Yes, and that's us. That's those of us that are Black Americans, foundational Black Americans in particular. Yes. Well, they learned their lesson because they've lost the House, they've lost the Senate, and the presidency. Now, I want to emphasize that because some of the Black sellouts, the Black bootlicks, the shucker and jivers, those that I call members of the LOM sorority, LOM, family, which I call like the League of Mammies and so forth, these group of powerful or influential Black folks on certain platforms and certain spaces that are used to promote white supremacy agendas and to diminish and to silence and to reprimand and to criticize any Black resistance against it. Those individuals, those gatekeepers, were who they put before us Such persons, individuals we're going to discuss today, Miss Simone Sanders-Townsend. Now, how many of you all know who she is? Miss Simone Sanders is an MSNBC contributor. By the way, she had her own little weekend show for about 5-6 minutes. Guess they said, no, this not doing like we wanted to do, so we're going to throw you in the morning times with a show with a couple of other co-hosts. Are y'all hearing me today? So watch this. But who is Simone? Simone was a communications official, point person, director for Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, remember, was considered to be a progressive, for real, presidential candidate. That's who she worked with and for. I don't know if you all are familiar with that or not. Yes? Family? She gave up the ghost with that and decided to go for Joe Biden. And some said that Kamala Harris's campaign at the time, and some claimed that even others were actually probably interested in Simone at the time. And she decided to abandon her so-called liberal chops to go work for Joe Biden. And a lot of folks seemed like they were shocked. But see, this lets us know what was actually driving her. It's whatever could really level her up, get her into a place of power. Because once she got there, baby, you couldn't tell Simone nothing, honey. You couldn't tell her anything, child. She got a little whiff of power for real, for real, for real. So she thought. And so she got it in her head. Once she made the decision to work on Joe Biden's presidential campaign before, obviously, he was declared the winner. How many of you all know that she thought in a very twisted and delusional state that she stood a chance of becoming the press secretary? I mean, it's laughable every time. And so Simone, in seeking that position, publicly came out. And some of you all don't remember this, but this is my job to help you remember and to connect the dots. Simone publicly came out and told Black men in general. First, she directed a comment to Uncle Luke. See, Uncle Luke, before he lost his mind and sold out to Kamala, to the Kamala campaign and started shilling for her, he actually came out and wrote a political piece. I believe it was for a Florida publication some years ago, talking about the difficulty that Kamala Harris is going to have winning because of her lock 'em up policies. Yes, which we knew. We knew. And Uncle Luke at that time was telling the truth, and that piece he wrote was actually accurate, and we were agreeing with that. But Simone was upset with him. She came out and publicly posted that he was no political strategist. She said some other words which was basically tantamount to, sir, you're unintelligent, you're not on this level, so stay in your place. That's how she was speaking to him. She was letting him know, you're not that smart. You're beneath us. This is for those of us that can twitch and twirl and got a little position with some of these political candidates, so you're not on our level. So keep your comments to yourself. So after she directed inappropriate and disrespectful comments to Uncle Luke, who accurately called out Kamala Harris's lock 'em up anti-Black policies and positions in her previous career, like I said, before he lost his mind, she turned around after calling him out and specifically said that she was tired of hearing Black men's opinions, unsolicited opinions. So she took it from just her comments directed at Uncle Luke to disrespecting him, calling him dumb, calling him unintelligent in so many words, and basically telling him you're not on this level, to telling Black men in general, basically to just hush, shut up. She said she was tired of y'all's unsolicited opinions. She said she was tired of Black men's unsolicited opinions. I need you to keep that, all these different moving parts in context with the clip that I'm getting ready to show you right now. So while this was going on, they put her out there as one of the many Black shills and boule folk to shut us up. And it didn't work. So when Simone finally made it to the White House, after Joe Biden was elected, Kamala became his VP. She thought she was legit in the, y'all, I know I laugh every time because this is real funny. Like, how could she even imagine this, even in her wildest dreams? She actually thought that she stood a chance to become press secretary. She made it to the White House, y'all. They played her like a fiddle. When Jen Psaki left, she knew that was her chance. How many of y'all know Jen Psaki? Jen Psaki, she has a show now on MSNBC. Well, some folks don't know her background either because she was basically a propagandist for the intel community. Let me hit the gavel on that one. For those of you that don't know, the Vicki Show is a home of the hand claps and the gavel raps. I bring the gavel to my platforms. I've been doing this gavel stuff for almost 20 years before I even came to social media. I brought it with me. I want you to know that your word matters. Watch this. So after Jen Psaki announced that she was going to step down as press secretary, some of y'all may have forgotten she was under the Biden-Harris administration. Watch this. The opening was there. She just knew she was in the running. No, ma'am. They put in instead Kareem Jean-Pierre. Simone lost her mind. I got to give y'all this quick background before I show you the clip. Simone lost her mind. Now, she was shielding and covering and defending the Kamala Harrises of the world, telling Black America to shut up. She was basically tackling, nonviolent protesters on behalf of Joe Biden. That's a whole nother story. Please don't make me get into that right now. I may have to tell y'all that story on this platform later. I typically share this with some of my other audiences, how she physically attacked a non-threatening, non-dairy protester, y'all, for Joe Biden. She just knew that was going to secure her position in the White House for press secretary job. That didn't work. Then she had the nerve to break her nail while she was, aggressively, linebacking the lady. Y'all, I'm not into sports like that, so I know I misuse athletic terms. When I was telling one of my other audiences about it some time back, because I've been covering this for a few years now, I was asking my fam, especially my brothers, y'all, what is this even called? I said, all I can think of when I see her run across that stage and just shake up everything like that, using her voluptuous body for a white supremacist Joe Biden child, and then turn around and break a nail. Girl, what are you doing that for? All that was linebacking. I thought you were supposed to be doing politics. So when I was talking to some of the fam on some of my platforms, when I was discussing this, I was like, she needs to be, in trouble for that. Like, why are you involved in football for Joe Biden? Let the Secret Service and the security people do that. What was you doing all that for? Just to make sure that, that they was going to secure your press secretary job? And so one of my supporters, y'all watch this. Y'all, so I'm like, this linebacker, she was linebacking. This is Broncos. This is Broncos. I thought I was supposed to be watching him stomp for one of his speeches. I didn't know I was tuning in to the Broncos. Y'all, I live in the Wild Wild West in Colorado. You may want to put some footballs in the chat. Family, watch this. So I'm like, look now, I didn't know I was coming to watch no football. Watch this. So I was telling y'all, all I could think about was she looked like a football player out there tackling this woman and didn't even let Joe Biden's Secret Service and security team do the job. She just decided to jump out there and to physically, literally, y'all tackle the woman. Watch this. So one of y'all, I said, what do we call this football player, this linebacker? One of y'all told me, one of the supporters said that we need to penalize her for unnecessary roughness. That's exactly what it was. It was absolutely unnecessary roughness. So I want you to keep all these different moving parts in mind about who Simone Sanders-Townsend really is. Now that the Democrats, one more thing, let me tell you this. So once she got in the White House, she was denied the press secretary job, y'all. She covered for Joe Biden. She covered for Kamala Harris, right? She every time we made a complaint, she told black folks to shut up. She was humiliated, y'all, when she was passed over for the press secretary job, which we knew and prophesied to her in advance, ma'am, you are not going to get this job. We told her, we know what your motivations are, Simone, because you were the communications person with Bernie and you were senior advisor to Joe Biden. We knew that was your goal. That's not going to happen, ma'am. They're just using you. So she ostensibly and apparently authorized some of her little CNN family, Bakari Sellers and all them, they was on a totally different network to start leaking stories about how upset she is about it. So her CNN buddies and friends, they start leaking stories to the press about how they can't believe basically the White House passed her over. Child, once MSNBC gave her a little weekend job, she went silent again. She went back to defending them and coming after us. Well, we're in a different position now. After all of that, she was humiliated. She ended up leaving the White House, y'all, because she was humiliated and didn't get the position. They threw her, y'all, they put her in one of the little positions in a little corner desk somewhere for Kamala's campaign. Y'all, it was so humiliating, poor thing. So they gave her a little weekend show on MSNBC. And here we are. Watch this. She decides to come out on this show. Now she doesn't have her own show anymore. Now she's a part of another show with 2 or 3 other co-hosts, right? On the weekend. Early morning when none of us are up. Watch this. Watch this clip. Now that she sees that they've lost the White House, they lost the Senate, and they were on the verge of losing the House of Representatives. Watch this very insightful panel and revelation in this clip.
So let me just be clear. I'm going to say it. She ain't going to say it. Nancy Pelosi, everybody talks about how the Speaker Emerita, she's so strategic. She can count. And yes, she did all of that when she was the Speaker in Congress. But my question is, where is your calculator now? Because Democrats are about to lose the dang on House. And for her to sit on this podcast, we'll play the sound about how, it's up to the, I don't deal in presidential politics, but she helped orchestrate. I'm going to say it.
This cycle.
She played in presidential politics this cycle. And she helped orchestrate the very public demise of the president.
That's right.
And thank God for Joe Biden that he came out and, yes, endorsed his VP, because these people wanted an open primary.
And
for where?
And when were we going to have an open primary between July 21st when he stepped down and August 20th when the convention was going to happen? When was that going to happen? And anybody who's suggesting that clearly wasn't looking at a calendar. Neither were they familiar with.
I'm looking for the magic wand that apparently the Democrats on Capitol Hill think that we have. I surely hope that Democrats eke out the majority in the House. But if they don't, I think the people that helped, the people that had so much to say about the president and the vice president earlier this summer, I think that those people need to take a back seat. I think the strategists that obviously fleeced the vice president's campaign and made a whole bunch of money, okay, and get no money to the turnout, they need to take a back seat, okay? They got to get the Robbie Mook treatment. Robbie Mook lost in 2016, and then he was at Harvard and just came back. Goodbye.
Family, did you all see that? Did you all see her get animated? Now, look, y'all know I am the queen of animation. I believe in spirit. I am a melanated Black woman that has energy and spirit and the force of the ancestors. But, honey, I'm not fixing to use all my glory and energy for a white supremacist system or nation, championing it to the world. No, that's not what you finna see me jiggle and jump up and down for. I'm not saving lives of white supremacists that's responsible for the undoing of the Black family for at least 2 generations. No, baby. No. I'm not about to be penalized in the spiritual court for unnecessary roughness for defending that. And I'm certainly not finna break a nail. No Black woman in her right mind is about to break a nail for somebody like Joe Biden. That's how you know that she is really, something's really, 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 really wrong with her. Family, the revelations that you just heard in that clip is astonishing. It's astonishing, but I'm going to keep saying what I always say. Why are they telling you all this now? When alternative voices like ours and Brother Phil Scott here was telling you the goings on of the boule and the establishment class. They kept all that secret. Now that they're losing access to where they get the most moist and warm buttery biscuits, now they're trying to snitch on everybody. You would have never imagined even just a few weeks ago that Simone Sanders would use an MSNBC platform to specifically call out Nancy Pelosi's name and mock her. Do you all remember all of the media reports that went around hailing Nancy Pelosi as the most powerful woman in Washington, D.C., talking about what a master strategist she is because her ability to keep the House when the Democrats were in power and her ability to negotiate and get things done and to ensure that the Democrats continue to win? She went right for that reputation, humiliated Nancy Pelosi, called Nancy Pelosi out, and said, "Where is your calculator now?" Baby, those are some shots fired. from a faithful biscuit such as Simone Sanders. Did you all hear me today? So by her saying that, she's letting us know, family, that they're absolutely incompetent. That means that Simone was actually believing that the Democrats stood a chance of actually winning everything all the way up to the elections, when we, the Black grassroots media, already told you all that the couch was going to be a threat for them and they were in trouble. They were going to pay for how they disrespected their most loyal constituency. I'm from the South, from Mississippi, and we got a saying there that you don't believe fat meat is greasy. So now she's sitting there saying in that clip that you just heard, well, now we on the verge, of losing the House. She was saying how she wished that they would eke out a win, but that wasn't guaranteed at the time of that airing a few days ago, right? So it lets you know the incompetency of the Democrats. They were lying to us and keeping some of these infightings and all this kind of stuff going on, right? And she specifically says that Nancy Pelosi, listen to the language, orchestrated the demise of Joe Biden. Now, how many of us in alternative media was using terms like the Democrats are doing shady stuff and orchestrating a type of coup to talk Joe Biden into leaving his position? Now, was something wrong with Joe Biden? Hell yeah, something wrong with him. But the Democrats lied to us and told us that he was okay. They could have done things if they knew that the president was physically or mentally unfit and could put the nation in danger. There are things that they could have invoked in order to protect the country. But they were lying to us about that. Do y'all understand? So if we're out here in alternative media sitting here telling you all that the Democrats are plotting something, and they've been plotting something for a long time to put Kamala in position, to me, I felt that this was a plan that they had for a long time. I'm going to leave it alone right now. That's not what today's broadcast is about. But I'm on record as saying that. Watch this. That means that Simone knew it too. Because she sat here and she's specifically saying that Nancy Pelosi, a fellow Democrat, high-powered former Speaker of the House, orchestrated, that means planned intentionally, his demise. And she was essentially also calling her a liar because she was mocking Nancy Pelosi when she said Nancy Pelosi says she doesn't get involved in presidential politics. And they were both up there agreeing that, oh, yes, you did get involved. And Simone did not mince any words and said that you were the one that orchestrated his demise. So let me say something to you. What does that tell you? If they are going to cover up and lie about such important information about those whom they telling you to give power to, that affects your livelihood here in the United States, and how your tax dollars and how your name and agency and people that are supposed to represent you around the world is used and put in place, what else would they lie about? Do you see the selfish motivation? But didn't she just unleash a major bomb when she also said what? And Brother Field talked about this last night when he was calling out Tiffany Cross, formerly of MSNBC, Angela Rye, formerly of CNN, and Andrew Gillum, former mayor in Florida. He was running for governor at one time. And all of these are Democrat shields. Yes, they have a podcast called Native Land. I've done broadcasts on them in times past. Watch this. Where they're all of a sudden now trying to tell us how dirty the Democrats are with their money and how they don't use it for black folk. Now y'all want to come out and tell us all this? And every time we told y'all and replayed for you in proper context how Kamala said she was not going to do anything specifically for black folks. Now you all want to cry a river? Now you all want to tell us all of the gory palace intrigue and secrets? I want you all to see the deception. And only because they don't have proximity to the White House anymore, or they don't have their little cable news jobs anymore, that's why they're snitching, because they feel irrelevant now. That's important who you listen to. Simone Sanders, said what? She said that they fleeced, that some Kamala Harris's strategist, listen, because y'all know Kamala, this past race, and even Donald Trump's numbers was outrageous, how much money he raised too. But Kamala Harris broke all kind of records with how quickly she raised all this money. But you all know Kamala Harris's campaign broke all kinds of records. They raised over $1 billion, with a B, over $1 billion for campaign, right? Simone Sanders just outed the Democratic strategists and said that some of them fleeced the money. They got money, got paid, but she said you didn't give the money to the turnout, meaning those that were supposed to be on the ground to actually turn out the vote. She seems to be intimating that they mishandled, misused, or stole those funds. So I'm going to make a suggestion here on this here podcast today on African Diaspora News Channel Network. Y'all ready? I'm getting ready to make a suggestion here, and perhaps we can tag the Democrat Party. We can tag the DNC. We can tag Symone and them. We can tag Kamala Harris. We can tag Joe Biden. We can tag any person or group that you believe is relevant to this and demand an investigation of those funds. Demand hearings in whatever way we can, in terms of on the Democrat side with the DNC and all that, about holding those individuals accountable. Because she is essentially saying, and if we're wrong, and if we misunderstand, if I'm wrong, and if I'm misunderstanding what she said, I'm pleased to be corrected. But because we need to get to the bottom of who these folks are that she's saying fleeced the funds from the campaign, did not get it to the appropriate organizations and persons that's responsible for the turnout. Are y'all hearing me today? We need the Democrats, that is. I think you all need to help me publicly call and tag and write and email the DNC and other Democrat elites, your useless Black Democrat caucus and all the rest of them. I think, and shoot, tag the Republicans, tag Fox News and them. We need to make this an issue about looking into the Democrats and holding them accountable for these funds that Simone Sanders, who was an insider, said funds were fleeced, mishandled. Isn't that something? That is a big, big deal. And some of you Black media folks, just like Roland Martin, some of y'all definitely heard about that, and others, folks are asking questions about how much did Roland get. I've been hearing and seeing numbers upwards of $350,000. They said that Roland got, saying that it was supposed to be ad money or something. And this word on the street, just circulated on the streets and stuff. That some people are raising questions about the veracity of those claims coming from his camp. People are wanting to know what all these Black shields got. I've been hearing from other social media folks who ended up later admitting that they were hoping that Trump would secretly win. One of the people that came out that got a big platform said that he took some of the money from Kamala's campaign. Folks are coming out left and right, leaking all kinds of information saying that they were actually given money or offered money from the Harris campaign. But what I find interesting, and I want to remind you all, and I did broadcast on this, I covered this as well. Watch this. I'm reading now from an article from September, the end of September, September 24th, right? Before the election. This is from the Atlanta Voice. The headline says, Black operatives reportedly furious over Kamala Harris campaign's spending decisions. Can somebody page Miss Simone Sanders-Townsend? I said this was before, quite a while before the election, yes? I covered it, and I know I'm not the only alternative Black media person that covered it. What is this about? Y'all listen to refresh your memory. Black Democratic operatives and minority-owned firms are raising alarms over spending practices in Vice President Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. They accuse the campaign of favoring white vendors while sidelining Black-owned firms. Oh, yes, I talked about this, baby, before the elections. When y'all was out there mad, want me to shut up and be quiet, don't mess up her chances of winning. It goes on. The controversy first reported by Notice, NOTUS, a nonprofit newsroom created by the All Britain Journalism Institute, has caused growing frustration among Democratic leaders, operatives, and donors. Many fear that these missteps could harm Harris's standing with the voters of color in the crucial weeks before Election Day. Derrick Johnson, president of the NAACP, expressed frustration in an August call with Harris's campaign. I'm going to repeat that part. Derrick Johnson, president of the NAACP. So these are all the bootlicks and bootleg folks that love her. Even they raised objections before the election about how she wasn't spending money on them when they learned about all the money she was giving to white firms. Listen. It says, alongside other prominent Black leaders, Johnson questioned why minority-owned political firms, historically integral to Democratic campaigns, were not receiving a fair share of the campaign's record-breaking fundraising. Nearly $1 billion since Harris became the Democrat nominee. Yes, family. I told you all that article was from September 24th, the end of September. Yes. Quote, if Black voters are the base, it says it should be Black vendors telling the story. A participant on the call told Notice. Yet, despite pressing the issue, many left the conversation with no clear resolution. Johnson and other leaders reportedly vowed to escalate their concerns, demanding transparency on how the campaign allocates its funds, and why there appears to be a lack of equitable spending with minority-owned firms. Family, I'm not saying that Symone didn't briefly and perhaps even capriciously mention this on her little weekend show with her other co-hosts, which I don't recall her doing. But why is she being so explicit now and outing out those that she said that are the turnouts that didn't get the money, and said that the others were fleecing the funds, misusing the funds? Sounds like she was saying stealing the funds, misappropriating the funds at the very least. This was known to us, and we discussed it in alternative Black media before the election. Do you see why I say that the moment we bring up something, they want us to shut up? You are just hating on Kamala. You all are just trying to get in the way. You all are this, that, and the third. They called us every name, calling us out of our names. But now they want us to cry a river with them, saying and exposing some of the similar things that we exposed long time before that. Why is it that Symone didn't tell us this around the time that this information came out? Why did the NAACP president, when he knew this information leaked to the press, why didn't we hear back from him? Because was it just about the money? Was it just about them willing to sell themselves to the highest bidder? Are y'all listening? Roland Martin. If he got $350,000, we're saying, Roland, are you going to be transparent with us about not only the exact numbers you got, bruh, but how those funds were used? Was it just essentially for that little interview that you finally got with her? These are your sellouts, Black family. And some of you all put your hope, watch this, and your money and your vote into these very candidates. Do you see how the White House, how corporate media, and how the political class, the elites, work together? And it's only when one of them are offended or they don't get a specific or personal benefit do they out the other one. Are y'all paying attention to the political collusion, the economic collusion? And now they whistling, they singing like a bird, snitching. Watch this. I want I know some folks like Vicki can get real professorial. She can get real academic on us from time to time. Well, I'm a very intelligent woman. So just because you see me gabbling full of energy, beloved, I'm the original woman. So don't just put me in a box. I'm saying that because I want to remind you every time we're together of a historical framework in which to put those that rule over you. One of the things, and this is indirectly related, but I want to show you another side of how dirty the Democrats are. Going back to the Clintons and how they use narratives, phrases to push policy and to get you to go along with stuff. Now, some of you all may say, well, Vicki, where are you going with this? I want you to listen. I didn't tell the producer of the team that I was going to talk about this book, but I'm going to quote to you now from a book entitled Understanding the Assault on the Black Man, Black Manhood and Black Masculinity by one of our great modern scholars and researchers, Dr. Wesley Muhammad. He put together this book a few years ago, which I've quoted from many, many times concerning many, many subjects over the past few years. And it's over 400-something pages. How many of you all remember us giving Hillary Clinton that everlasting work? And of course, this also contributed to why Hillary Clinton lost when she ran. When we exposed Hillary Clinton and her anti-Blackness because she perpetuated this notion of labeling our Black families, specifically our Black boys and men, as super predators. Yes, how many of y'all remember that? Look, I'm trying to go see the comments. I can't really click that fast over there because I'm getting ready to read from something else. How many of y'all remember that? How many of y'all remember, because I want to read to you from this, and this, y'all look how thick this book is, 400-some pages. And you see I got highlights all throughout it. Watch this. I have to remind you about this is how they've always been towards us. And I want us to take from these strategies so that we can implement this for ourselves, not only in it for defensive purposes. Whenever something happens, we can always act against something, but we need to be on the offensive, Black family. Are y'all hearing me today? Yes? In this section, on page 31 of the book, this particular headline says, Hillary's young Black super predators. Many of you are very familiar with that, yes? Well, the author starts to talk about briefly Tamir Rice within this context. And he connects some dots between the murder of Tamir Rice, yes, and this Hillary Clinton, what they did many years prior with this super predator. Now, I'm going to skip here. I'm going to skip around a little bit and not read every bit of this, but I want you to listen, okay? He says, the author that is of this book, he says that I most definitely am charging, however, that the Clintons, Bill and Hillary, both have some measure of indirect but deep and demonstrable culpability related to the murder of our brother, Tamir Rice. Are y'all listening? He says that the merciless drive-up shooting of the 12-year-old Tamir by Officer Timothy Loman and Officer Frank Garmbach, as well as the city of Cleveland's rationalization, justification, and apologia for the murder of this harmless child are both legacies of what Dr. Perry Moriarty, associate professor of the University of Minnesota Law School, calls America's super predator war of the 1990s. I need y'all to connect the dots. Where my intelligent Black people at? He says, if President Johnson had his war on poverty and Presidents Nixon and Reagan had their war on drugs, some folks don't know that Nixon was involved in that prior to Reagan, but I'm gonna move on. He says President Clinton and his helpmeet, the First Lady, had their super predator war aimed specifically at young adolescent Black males. I'm skipping. He says here that phrase, super predator, when Hillary said, I'm skipping to the part where he references that, right? He says Hillary Clinton must not be given a pass for her 1996 super predator remarks. Her apology during this year's campaign, because that's when he released this particular book. This was a few years ago. Her apology during this year's campaign should be rejected because it was deceptive and thus disingenuous. So Dr. Wesley is accusing Hillary Clinton's apology for the super predator comment, her apologizing during the campaign, not prior to, but during the campaign. He said it was disingenuous. Y'all watch this, because we're talking about narratives and how narratives are pushed in order for us to support certain people in power and to push certain policies that ultimately end up becoming law. Right, family? And now I want you to focus on the fact that I'm still talking about the Democrats. He said it was deceptive and disingenuous. Watch this. He said her claim to Jonathan Capehart of the Washington Post, by the way, that man blocked me on social media. Her claim to Jonathan Capehart of the Washington Post that she was not talking about the young people, but about the drug cartels that victimize the young people, kids in her language, is flatly contradicted by her own statement. So just for those of you that don't know, Hillary, she was forced to, when she was running for president, address the super predator, because some of us remembered that and held her accountable to let her know about her anti-black stance with the super predator stuff, because she's the one that pushed that. Watch this. Along with her husband in the establishment. But as first lady, she had a large bully pulpit, and he's trying to show you the connection between the narratives and what the media picks up and how stuff becomes law. It shows you the collusion between those two spheres. Do you all understand what I'm saying? So in defense of herself, so that she wouldn't lose momentum in her presidential campaign, she lied about it and said, oh, I wasn't talking about you, Negroes. I was talking about the drug cartels. They lie so much, don't they? But watch this. Some of y'all haven't heard this background unless you follow me on some of the other platforms where I've been breaking this down for the past several years. Listen. While on the campaign trail for her husband in New Hampshire, the first lady told her audience, are y'all listening? Justifying President Bill Clinton's draconian and racist 1994 bill. Do you all see how they come in to help the other one? Listen. And this is a quote from Hillary Clinton, former first lady, about her husband's 1994 crime bill. She says, quote, we also have to have an organized effort against gangs, just as in a previous generation, we had an organized effort against the mob. We need to take these people on, and they are often connected to big drug cartels that are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids who are super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we must bring them to heel. How many of you all know that we only use the term bring them to heel typically when we're talking about a dog? And she clarified and was clear. She was specifically talking about our black babies. That's not even where I'm going. Some of you all saying, what's the big deal about the term super predators? Yes, Vicki, we know that it ended up assisting to justify her husband's draconian and racist bill. She used her femininity. She used her bully pulpit to socialize the community, just like the WKK, which are known as the women of the Ku Klux Klan and the daughters of the Confederacy. They infiltrate society to entrench white supremacy. Do you all know that's the reason why they consider the WKKK, which is the auxiliary, the women's KKK, and other such organizations to be even more powerful than their men with entrenching white supremacy in society? Because they use religion, they use church, they use social environments, they use the PTA, they use schools to anchor that racism. But that ain't all. Y'all listen. I hope you're hitting that thumbs up button and sharing. I hope you're hitting that thumbs up button and sharing the broadcast. Listen, it is thus not the cartels. Yes, give me a couple minutes and we'll be finished. It is thus not the cartels that are here described as super predators. It is specifically certain kinds of kids, right? And we break that down in no limit of time. But where am I going? Do you all know that that term super predator, Hillary Clinton family learned it from a right-wing political scientist by the name of John J. DiIulio. At the time, he was working at Princeton University as professor. How, family? Mr. DiIulio, y'all, was invited to the White House, y'all, for a working meeting. He sat there, and I'm quoting here now from page 34 quickly. I got 2 minutes. We know that this is what the First Lady had in mind when she was talking about the young black youth. Why? Because DiIulio was invited to the White House with the Clintons. Y'all listening? When she spoke on behalf of her husband in New Hampshire, early in 1995, Bill Clinton hosted a working White House dinner on juvenile crime. Of the 12 invitees were DiIulio, who thoroughly schooled his host on the super predator threat over gourmet Szechuan wonton and lamb meeting. Dragged on for 3.5 hours, and Bill Clinton took copious notes and asked lots of questions. The long and short, later on, that professor admitted that that was just junk science, that they had made up the term that black youth were a threat, and they were a threat. And he used his science from Princeton. He's the one that came up with the term, taught the Clintons during a working 3.5-hour meal. And they turned around and specifically seeded that message to support and to underwrite their racist policy that her husband had passed and to normalize it. And then this reputation picked up in the United States and throughout the world. I wanted to use it as just one small example. Family, I hope to see some of you this Sunday at my free webinar. Go to my website at vickiplanet.com. Hopefully we can pin it in the comments below. But it's going to be a free webinar this Sunday, November 24th, where I'm going to be exposing the dark energies that are used in campaigns in Kamala Harris's and Donald Trump's, and also just like the Clintons. I'm going to break down to you a prophetic prophecy on what we can do about these dark energies. You don't want to miss it this Sunday, November 24th. Go to my website at vickiplanet.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. I can't wait to